Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Better and the Bookmaker. Welcome my good friend back, Colin Crandall. Colin, how are you, my friend?
Very good, my friend. Great to see you as always, Hollywood. An honor to be on your show, Crime Entertainment, man. Appreciate it a lot, brother.
Thank you, man. Looking forward to having you here. Now, we got a little fight night. We're going to kind of do a half and half episode. We got a fight night, Dawson versus Green. Going to do some picks and predictions on that. Also, I wanted to bend your ear a little bit on the state of combat sports because definitely a changing landscape because you got more pay-per-view buys coming in for, former YouTubers and celebrities and crossover possibilities with Nagano and Tyson. It's a different time. It's a different landscape from when I grew up and you guys like yourself. So I wanted to bend your ear about that. But real quick, let's run through this fight night. Tell us a little bit about what you got on the card, because the last one that me and you done a couple of events back went very well. A lot of good info. I think the only upset, the only one we really got wrong was obviously Sugar Shane beating Aljamain Sterling, which I think shocked a lot of people. But in the
It
that happens.
Yeah, it does indeed. It does. MMA betting is one of the hardest things you can do. It's one of the hardest sports to handicap. If you can know everything about it, and still strange things can happen because of how many skills are being employed there. The fact that someone can be winning by beating the crap out of someone and someone catches them in a submission hold and they lose, like that. And same thing, vice versa, get caught, twist the ankle, hurt yourself, it's a very dynamic and rigorous sport. But yeah, it's so hard to know. But yeah, we always try to take my 30 years of experience in watching MMA from the beginning, actually 2 years prior to the first UFC. I was familiar with ballet judo fighting in Brazil and the great jiu-jitsu and action, no holds barred fight tape. So got a lot of knowledge and watched a lot of fights. So absolutely happy to give you good information to get. So no problem, my brother. Sorry for the monologue here, but yeah, but we'll jump into it and we're gonna go. We'll work our way up from beginning fight on the main card, and it looks like that is going to be the women. Carolina Kowalkiewicz, KK they call her, against Diana Belbita. You got a couple of Europeans, I believe there. I know Carolina's from Poland and Diana is from Romania. So you've got like a similar neck of the woods over there in Eastern Europe. I believe. I'm terrible with geography, but I got that right. So let's take a look at Diana Belbita, the warrior princess from Romania. She's only 27 years old, 5'7" for a women's strawweight, 115 pounds. That's a tall strawweight. She's got 10 finishes out of her 15 fights, so a 75% finish rate, or close to that, 57% finish rate. That's higher than most women's strawweight. Then she's got 7 losses. She's only been in the UFC for just under 4 years, and her record is actually 2-3 in the UFC. So she really needs this fight. She lost to Molly McCann when Molly was on street. She lost to the editor duel by submission. Came back and beat Onyx Anatoly, lost to Gloria DePaula, and is coming off a victory only this past June, 4 months ago, against Leah Olivera, 27-year-old, 7'5", 7'1". Her opponent is going to be a lot older than 27. Carolina Kowalkiewicz is 37. So a 10-year age disadvantage. The records are almost identical. In fact, the records are identical. They're both 15-7, but in a real different way. Carolina has been in the UFC, I think, for 70 years. She's been in the UFC for 8 years. She's fought everyone there is to fight, including her countrywoman, Joanna and Jay Chick. At one point, she had a 5-fight losing streak going, but now she's coming off a 3-fight win streak. Interesting fight. The 27-year-old Diana Belbita at 2-3 in the UFC has got to get on track. You can't stay employed by the UFC for too long if you have a losing record in their organization, even if you have an overall record that's pretty good.
Unless you're Tony Ferguson.
There we go. Exactly. There are a few exceptions. But in this fight, man, this is going to be a tough one. Now, let's examine the odds real quick here. And the odds are probably going to favor Carolina, the more experienced girl. Yeah, slight favorite, -155 to -178. About a 1.5 to 1 favorite to come back on the Romanian Belbita. plus 132, plus 138. So hard to say on that one, man. I just, that's, to me, that's kind of like a no play fight. You got to lean towards the younger girl, but Belbita hasn't really been doing it. How tall is Carolina? That see how big the height difference is. Big, yeah. Carolina's 5'3". You got to probably lean for the younger, taller, rangier girl on this one, but I don't know. At some point, Carolina's going to lose the step at 37, and if it does, then this would be a fairly easy win for the Romanians. But that one, man, if forced, I would say go for Belbita. But I think probably an even better bet might be that the fight does go the distance, even though Belbita is a finisher. Not too many people have finished Carolina Kowalkiewicz. Jessica Penne armbarred her. Jessica Andrade failed her buddy Gedalia years ago submitted her. But mostly she's hard to beat down and hard to make that quit. So leaning Diana Belbita, but probably a no play.
I was thinking that too. That might be a little too close to call. Might just be one I enjoy and watch with nothing on. If I did, maybe a little small something on it go in the distance. But I absolutely agree. That's one of those things to where you got the more experienced fighter. They're going to have a little bit of the betting edge, but you can never underestimate youth and hunger either. So, if I had to pick a side, I may personally might go with the experience by decision, throwing a little something on there. But probably one I will pass on.
Yeah, I agree. I always cheer for the older fighter too, so I'd love to see Carolina win it. Nothing against Diana Belbita, but hey, maybe since she's in Romania, maybe she can get some sponsorship from the Tate brothers, Andrew and Tristan. That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So going on, we have Alexander Hernandez versus Bill Algeo. Hernandez is the man they call the Great Ape, really strongly built guy. He got into the UFC when he was only 24. He is 31 now. He's got a record of 14-6. Most of his fights have been in the UFC. Actually, scratch that. About half his fights have been in the UFC. You just don't know which Alexander Hernandez will show up. So he can be a little bit unpredictable. He's got 8 finishes out of his 14 wins. 31 years old, 5'9". Lightweight, pretty standard size, 155-pounder, out of a great school, though. He's over at Factory X now, with some great coaching by Mark Montoya, one of the best coaches in the game, and a bunch of great teammates. His opponent is Bill Algeo, who's 2 inches taller than him, and also 3 years older. Senor Perfecto has a record of 17-7 with 11 finishes. He has been doing a little bit better in the UFC, but not there for quite as long as Hernandez. So this is a tough fight. I'm gonna go for Algeo. He's a little bit older. There's a little bit more pressure on him to keep on winning. I have a feeling he's gonna be a slight favorite. Let me take a look. Yeah, he's a slight favorite.
Like 145.
Yep, minus 145, give or take. I like Algeo, but I would say again, this would be maybe a 1-unit bet. A lot of these fights on this close, a lot of these fights on this card are close. I never try to get out of giving my thoughts and tips, but when it's real close, I got to be straight and say this is real close. So this is the second fight on the main card, real close. But I would lean Bill Algeo the length, and even though he's an older fighter, I think he's a little bit fresher, and I think his fight IQ is maybe a little bit better, just a little bit better than the Great Ape. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Like I said, I like the age and experience a little bit. And like you said, you don't really know what you're going to get with Hernandez. So I think I would go with Bill on that as well. Now, I actually watched some clips here recently on the next one. I don't know what's next on your docket, but I'm seeing Ricky Glenn and Drew Dober.
I think so. Let me take a look. And it is actually, there's one before that. There's Philippe Lins and Ewan Kukalava. So I'll blast through that, then we'll get to the Dober and Glenn.
Okay.
So this is a strange fight. Philippe Lins is a guy who fought at heavyweight for years and is now down at light heavyweight. His opponent fought at middleweight for years and is now up at light heavyweight. Felipe Lins out of Brazil is 38 years old. Now, that's not a good number unless you're in a heavier weight class.
Yeah.
205 is not a bad number. It's not a great age to be. He's not in his prime for sure, but not unreasonable for a guy close to 40 to continue at light heavyweight. Would have been better at heavyweight, but then he wasn't a big enough guy for that. 6'1", 205. He was not doing that great at heavyweight, but at light heavyweight, he is 3-0. Didn't really beat a bunch of killers, but nevertheless, he's 3-0. Overall record 17-5 with 13 finishes. So man is a finisher. You tend to see that a little bit more in the higher weight classes. He is called Monstro. The Monstro, I think that is. His opponent is from the Republic of Moldova. The Hulk, Yuan Kutalava, 29 years old, 9 years younger, 6'1" also, having fought in a lower weight and come up. He has one win out of 4 since he came up in weight. He was doing a little bit better at middleweight, but you know what? He's a double tough guy, but they've matched him up in the UFC really, really hard. But then he has a lot of experience. This is a fight that's also probably in the odds going to be somewhat of a pick-em when you take a look. Yeah, it is. Kutalava is favored. You know, this one, it's so tough because you hate to bet money on a guy who's lost like 5 out of his last 7 fights, regardless of his weight division. But a lot of the fights he made really competitive. But then I don't know about Lins. Let me take another look here. So Kutalava overall is 17-9, 15 finishes. Wow, that's right. If he doesn't finish you, then he usually doesn't win. And when he loses, he almost always gets finished. So this is a live and die by the sword type of guy. My man here, the Hulk from Moldova. Now Lins,
an 11-year age gap too, right?
Yeah, he's a younger man. He's got that age advantage. Now Lins has only 5 losses, and let's see how he got. He got finished on 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 5. He's not as big. Well, he's a big finisher too. 13 finishes out of 17 wins. Both of these guys, if they don't finish you, they usually lose. And if they lose, it's because their opponent finished them. So obviously the bet here is that this fight is not going the distance, not going to pay much money. You're probably going to have to bet $500 to win 100, and there's not much point in that. You could be brave and say maybe these guys are cautious with each other and it goes the distance. And I think you would get a fairly generous payout if you went fight does go the distance, or let's say the fight goes over 2.5 rounds. And it really might. These guys, I mean, Lynn's career is not in trouble. Lynn has the 3 wins in a row. And he is a big guy for this weight division. Even if not tall, he's a thick and heavy guy. But Kutalava at 29 is confronted with the fact that he's got to get some kind of a win streak going. I mean, he's literally, his last 7-8 fights look like this: a win, a loss, a loss, a loss, a win, a draw, a loss, a loss.
And it does look like he likes to go to the ground a little more than Lynn. So that could be interesting.
Well, yeah, it will be, man. I think that, you know, sometimes they say the animal who's running for his life will sometimes run faster than the animal who's running for his dinner, for obvious reasons, right?
Yeah.
And so even though Lynn's it really needs this because the time clock is running down on him a little bit at 38, Kutalava needs it even more because of the fact that at 29, he could be out of his job. How'd you like to be just about turning 30 and get your papers that you're cut from the UFC right around your birthday? What kind of a present would that be?
Yeah, not too good. Another one that, you know, like you said, unless you want to take a waiver on going the distance, might be one to pass on. And you get,
you know, I mean, I'm gonna go Kutalava. I think he knows he's at 29 years old. I'm sorry to step on your words. I think he's just he needs it. I think they both need it, but he needs it. So I'm gonna lean Kutalava. But again, maybe like a 1 unit bet, and you know,
right. Nothing to go too crazy on here. I'm real curious to get your take on this Ricky Glenn fight, because I was saying earlier I was watching some highlights of that, and I mean, Glenn not too shabby there, but Dober's he looks like a tough customer too. What's your take on this fight?
So Drew Dober is a real good guy. I've interviewed probably 5-6 times over the last 6 years. Amazing guy. He's a unique dude. He's a Nebraska boy, and he looks like a Nebraska boy. I think what's that?
Like a big corn husker there.
He does. I think he's got like blue eyes. He's got this jawline, good looking guy, big smile, very easygoing and humble guy. Very, very good fighter. At 34, he's starting to be a bit outside his prime for a 155-pound fighter, but his opponent is 34 as well. Drew has 26 wins and 12 losses, so 38 fights. He's got 19 submissions out of 26 wins. That's a 73% finish rate, which is damn good. The guy's got dynamite in his hands, and he does have some wrestling. Loves to stand out. He did get caught by another really good guy, Matt Favola, in his last fight, May 6th, and that stopped a 3-fight win streak that he had been on, all by knockout. And so he's going to be very anxious to get back on track. He's fighting with an amazing team, Elevation Fight Team, and his opponent, Ricky Glenn, is such a durable guy. He's got the height advantage at 6 foot tall, so 4 inches taller than Drew. 22-7, and he's got 16 wins, so he's got a 73% finish rate. Glenn is fighting out of Team Alpha Male in Sacramento up there with Uriah Faber, Joseph Benavidez, Josh Emmett, and Chad Mendez, and several of those guys. Some of those guys may have left from being fired, but a really good, lanky, tall fighter. He has been struggling a little bit. They're actually both coming off first round knockouts against him, which is very interesting. The only difference is that Glenn had been a win one, lose one guy for the most part leading up to that, and Dober had been on that 3-fight killing streak. So, it's going to be a good fight. Good. Glenn is a very tricky guy, but I think Drew's still got something left, and I think Drew's still, wow, look at the odds. Drew is a 4-1 favorite. Minus 480 to minus 530. Now, I feel that is a bit of an overlay. I feel that, to me, the handicappers are feeling that the dynamite is going to meet the 10 at some point for sure. And there's nothing sure. There's nothing certain about that, as crafty as Glenn is. I'm picking Drew Dober, but I don't like 4-1 odds. I don't want to lay that chalk. Glenn could win this fight, but I would go maybe a couple of units. Well, you're not making any money. I would put him in a parlay, and maybe the prospect of Drew by knockout, and maybe yourself on Drew by a decision. You could actually make both bets, and as long as they're both paying you better than 2-1, then you can end up, winning either way. You choose one of them, maybe make some money the other side.
Maybe even do like a half a unit, lay down on Glenn himself to win the fight. I mean, that would
there
be.
You go. Cover your butt. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
You saw some stuff about Glenn or about these guys?
I mean, I love the highlights that I was watching of Glenn. I actually caught some the other day. It was on a reel that I was scrolling through on Instagram, and I haven't seen a ton of Dober, but I mean, Dober looks like a tough customer just off the visual. He's got the package, looks like a tough guy. Obviously, both of these guys coming off of losses, they're going to be hungry. So again, you're fighting for your livelihood there to keep that. Obviously, Glenn don't want to have another loss on his record.
Looks like something froze here with Hollywood. Hollywood, you could probably edit this out. You okay there, Hollywood? You froze for about 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
Oh yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm here. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna still roll with Glenn, man. I like the upset here. I think he can pull it off.
As they say in sports betting, as you well know, there's definitely value in Glenn at like plus 360, plus 390. Maybe you can even find a plus 400 somewhere at the shop party.
Yeah. Next up, we got what, Buckley and was that Morono?
Yeah, Morono. Yeah, I hate that fight because Buckley has spent years, even though he's listed as being out of St. Louis, he spent years training in my original home state of Michigan, out of Murcielago MMA. A lot of people have seen him with that Detroit Combat Over Gentleman that has a lot of stuff with disarming weapons and other stuff. Some people buy it, some people don't. Buckley likes the guy. He's been in his corner. Buckley is also kind of still, training with his friend Chaos Williams. who is an amazing fighter, as well as Jamal Hill, the former UFC light heavyweight champion, who still would be that, but he loses his title because of injury to not hold up the division. So Buckley is a tough guy. With any Michigan moves, like I cheer for you. You know how it is. I think being an East Coast guy yourself, wherever you come up, those are your teams forever. And people from there in combat sports, those are your boys.
Yeah.
And so, Buckley is that. But on the flip side of it, never got an interview with him. Reached out a few times. I don't think he had an active way to get a hold of him very easily. But Alex Morono, I've interviewed half a dozen times over the last 6.5, 7 years. Really, really good guy. This is a very important fight. So let's break it down. Alex Morono, the great white, just like the great white shark. He's not talking about being white. It's the white shark. Great white. And he is 5'11", 170 pounds out of Fortis MMA. He also owns his own jiu-jitsu academy, a branch of the very well-known, respected Gracie Barra schools, which are spelled Barra. So it sounds like Barra, but that's pronounced silently, or H in Portuguese. So Gracie Barra, the Woodlands in Texas, is the school he owns. So he is there a lot. And then we does some training camps for MMA. He goes down the road, half hour or an hour, I think, to Fortis MMA. Alex, at 33 years old, is still barely right there in the edge of the prime at 170 pounds. In the UFC since 2016, so he's got 7 years. Does have a definite winning record in the UFC. I think he's something like 10-4 or something. He fought some very, very tough guys. He was on a 4-fight win streak until he took a fight on like a week's notice against a very, very tough opponent from Argentina, Santiago Ponzinibbio, and they were beating the brakes off each other until Ponzinibbio caught him in the third round. I think he may have been getting winded a little bit as well, taking a short notice fight with no training camp. But he came back just 5-6 months later and caught a very tough Tim 30-bird beam position. And he's still in a good position, having won 5 out of his last 6 fights, with the only loss being the one on his short notice. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt, good one, but he loves striking. Wrestling is okay, but his jiu-jitsu is solid as can be, and his striking is as well. He's got 13 finishes out of his 23 wins. Let's move on to the slightly younger man, Joaquin Buckley, a man training in Michigan for many years, out of St. Louis. He's 16-6. He's got 12 knockouts. So he's got a bit of a higher finish rate. He was up there fighting at 185 at 5'8". So he was just a little bit undersized for that division. And he came down in the first fight. He won in a spectacular fashion by a head kick. If the weight cut goes okay for him, then he's going to be a force. He is a bundle of muscle. He is like a little tank at 170. At 5'8", he's not that short at 170, but he's got some wrestling defense. I know my man from Michigan, Kern Jacobs, helped the guys over there with their wrestling in 2019, 2020, 2018. And so he's got some good takedown defense. This is an interesting matchup. Before the one win, coming down to welterweight, he had 2 tough goes where he had 2 losses in middleweight, but he had 3 wins before that. And he's been in the UFC just for 3 years, but he's had like 9 fights or 10 fights for 3 years. He's a very exciting guy. They call him a new Mansa. This is a tough fight, but in all honesty, I mean, I like both guys a lot. I know I'm not going to say I hope it's a draw because everyone hates that, but I hope they both do really well. I hope they both get a $50,000 fight of the night bonus, and whoever wins. If forced, I always cheer for the players that are a little bit older because they got less time, and I think that Alex has a bit more tools as far as his ground game being high level and his striking, but probably the harder puncher is Buckley, but Alex has a skin of iron. Yeah, he got caught by Ponzinibbio with just 1 week notice and no training camp, but doesn't mean you're going to get caught by Buckley. He's got to win this, and this is going to be a war. I think this could be your fight of the night. The favorite is going to be Joaquin Buckley. about 1.75 to 1. I think there's value on Alex Morono. It's forced on picking Alex Morono, but I hope they both do real well. It's going to be a competitive fight. I don't see any way that either guy's going to take the other guy out. Although I know there's a certain amount of people that feel if Alex wants to stand on his feet too long, Buckley could just take him out. And that's possible. So there's some money you could bet on that. You know what you could possibly do? It's going to be a good payoff on both. You could go Buckley by knockout and Alex by submission. You know what I mean? But then the way you lose is a decision, or if Alex wins by knockout, because Buckley's not submitting a high level of black belt. Like, that's one thing you get a 100 to 1 payoff on. Joaquin Buckley is not submitting with the submission hold the jiu-jitsu black belt Alex Morono. That's the only thing it's not.
Yeah, you got to be careful when you play those ways because you can, like you said, wind up losing both ways. I've done that before, picking one. Yeah, sometimes picking both for a knockout, and then, they wind up getting submitted. So, the sports handicapping, like you said, is a lot of different ways it can go in the UFC. And just looking, at these two guys' appearance, and I know you can't always go off appearance, but you can just tell Morono's a tough-looking customer, man. And Buckley, looks to be in great shape. You can tell he's probably got the stamina. I think that'll be the key in this is the stamina. But I think you're probably looking at a decision for Buckley here. That's my opinion.
Very possibly. Maybe he touches him up a little bit more, does a little bit more damage. I can see it. This could be a good fight. Mark my words, though. There's no wager to bet that something's going to be fight of the night. They can't make any money on this, unfortunately, but that's my prediction. Fight of the night, Buckley and Morono is the home main event.
All right. What we got next?
Next up, I think, if I'm not mistaken, oh, no, there is one more before the main event. So Buckley is not the co-main event. Buckley is what's called the Coco main event. Coco, third fight event. Okay, now we have the co-main event. Joseph Pyfer against Abdul Razak Alhassan. Pyfer has made a big name for himself. He's a very charismatic guy. He's won both of his UFC fights by first-round knockout. And pretty good fighters. And he won in the Contender Series. He's only got 13 fights, but he's only 27 years old, so nothing wrong with that. 6'1", 185 pounds, average size middleweight. Out of 11, no, remember this, these stats that I'm about to throw at you. Out of 11 wins, he's got 10 finishes.
Whoa.
Yep. 8 by KO and 2 by submission. Out of the 2 losses he has, he got finished in both. So this is the ultimate live and die by the sword guy. But since he's been fighting in the last 2 years, it's all 4 wins. And all 4 wins by stoppage. One was in my friend Jason Niederfein's company. He's one of the executives of their Cage Fury Fighting Championship, which you can always see on UFC Fight Pass. He beat his opponent by KO in the second there. He won on Dana White's Contender Series. TKO in the second there. He had his first UFC fight a year ago, TKO in the first there, and he had his second UFC fight 6 months ago, TKO in the first there. Now, his opponent, Abdul Razak Alhassan, is out of Accra, Ghana. If you guys know boxing, think the great Professor Azuma Nelson, another great championship boxer out of Ghana. There's another main fighters out of Ghana, but not too prominent, I don't think. Anyway, this man is called Judo Thunder. He's a judo black belt, but he's got hands and he loves throwing them. He, that elevation fight team was Drew Dober, funny enough. Huh. And the thing is that, they're a couple weight divisions apart, but they can still give each other work. At least I don't know if they are, but they probably have given each other some look. Alhassan at 5'10" was more suited height-wise to 170, but he has a large frame. It's just like Mike Tyson was 5'10" by most people's count, but you never expected to ever see him on the 200, nor will you, maybe 80 years old. Who knows at that point. But so going up to middleweight has looked like a good situation. He's 1-0 at middleweight. Before that, he was a kind of win one, lose one, more like win one, lose two type of guy at welterweight, because the weight cut was brutal for him, I think. He also never got any favors done for him at the UFC, just being set up against Killer. Anyway, he's 38 years old, is the only problem.
11-year age gap here.
Yep. And he's given away, 3 inches in height. They're giving away 3 inches in height and 11 years in age, but he's way more experienced. Now, remember how I said Pyfer has got 11 wins, 10 by finish, 2 losses, and he got finished in both. Here's the stat for his opponent in this fight. Razak Alhassan has 12 wins and 12 knockouts.
Whoa.
So he's just a slight bit better than the 93% knockout rate with a 100% finish rate. The other guy has a couple submissions as well. But yeah, this fight's not going to the bell. Now, out of 5 losses that Alhassan has, he only got stopped in 1 of them. So unlike Pyfer, that he's either going to win and stop you, or he's going to lose and you're stopping him, with Razak Alhassan, more than likely 100%. If he beats you, he knocks you out. But if he loses, could very well be a decision. Most of the time was. So this is a very interesting fight, and I think the odds here might surprise you, because I know they did surprise me, if I remember correctly. Joe Pyfer, 4-1 favorite. Doesn't make any sense to me. I know that Pyfer is a lot younger. I know that Pyfer is the natural light heavyweight, natural middleweight, and I know that Razak Alhassan is a former welterweight. Still though, I think, how do you make a guy that's got dynamite in his fist, that has 12 knockouts out of 12 wins, and let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them have come in the UFC. How do you make that man a 4-1 underdog against a man that has a total of 2 UFC fights? I'm not saying Pyfer can't win and doesn't win, but I'm going to say this. I'm no way you lay 4-1 odds on a guy in his 3rd UFC fight. He's going up against by far the most dangerous striker he's ever gone against. Could he do it? Could he just keep taking him down? Possibly. But Razak Alhassan's team has been working on that at Elevation Fight Team. They've got Neil Magny, all kinds of people there, Curtis Blades. And if he's getting some time with Curtis Blades, a heavyweight, if he's able to fight off Blades a little bit, Pyfer's takedowns, he's going to be able to laugh at compared to Curtis Blades. Although the small man needs to be faster, the Curtis is very fast. I think the value is on Abdul Razak Alhassan. I think this is the most dangerous opponent that Pyfer has had, and I think Alhassan could win the fight. I'm just at these odds, man. There's value in it, and I'm thinking Alhassan wins. I wouldn't go crazy on it, but you're getting such a good return. You don't have to go crazy. Just put, every unit you put on it, you're getting 3.5 times your money back. So I'd put a couple of units on Abdul Razak Alhassan.
Yeah, I like that as well. I think the value is good. If I went away from that, I would just probably do that the fight does not go the distance, because like you said, I don't think with these 2 guys in there, I don't think no way this goes the distance. And there could be
although there's not going to be any money in that wager. That's the only problem.
Right, and that was what I was going to say. You could tie that into some other ones on like maybe a 3 or 4 leg parlay, and
there you go,
give you some decent return on there. I mean, what I would do just for grins, I would maybe take Abdul on a parlay as well with Ricky Glenn. So if you get 2 upsets right there, that could be a huge payout for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that. I like that. That's going to be an exciting fight also. I guaranteed, or not even guarantee, I said more than likely the fight of the night is going to be Dober, Morono and
Buckley.
And Buckley. But now I'm realizing we got Pyfer. I still think it's Buckley and Morono because they're both so experienced. Yeah. But this fight's either going to be completely dull if Pyfer can just keep taking him down and controlling him. Not that wrestling is dull. I wrestled a little bit myself with my jiu-jitsu, so I respect it a lot. But this could be a fight of just Pyfer playing safe, getting the takedowns and scoring up the points. But then it could go the distance, which actually would make it somebody. So there's a possibility of that, or it's going to be a barn burner. But in all honesty, I think that the odds makers are way off. This would be maybe 2-1, maybe Pyfer, not 4-1. So definitely an opening there. Not really going to guarantee the gambling, but Alhassan could easily. He's knocked out 12 men out of 12.
Right. Yeah.
So good chance if he fights you, you're not going to see the final bell unless you beat him.
Yeah, unless you beat him. It's
Yep.
gonna be fun to watch, man. Your finale here, your main event, Dawson and Green. I'm interested to hear your breakdown here.
Absolutely. So this is an interesting main event. Bobby Green, Grant Dawson. Again, it seems like this. It seems like all these fights are veteran against youngster fights. Have you
Yeah,
noticed
it does. A big age gap in a lot of these, except for one or two.
Right. In the main event, Grant Dawson is 29, and the King, Bobby Green, is 37. So once again, we got a Generation Z against a Millennium matchup here, and Bobby, I think, is somewhat of an older millennial. But let's examine Bobby the King Green first. The man's got 44 fights. Dawson has 21 fights, 22 fights, so it's exactly double the fights. So yeah, Bobby Green has been in the UFC, I believe, 10 years. What I saw when you see 10 years, and he's got about 17, 18 fights in the UFC. Grant Dawson, on the flip side, 29 years old, has just been in the UFC for 4 years. He's got a lot of fights. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he's been active. He had a draw, funny enough, with Ricky Glenn, and Ricky looked really good in that fight for whatever reason. Dawson didn't. I think that was when Dawson was having a transition, maybe from the James Krause fight team that kind of got disbanded because of the gambling scandal. And
hopefully they weren't listening to Better in the Bookmaker when they were doing it.
There you go. Right. Yeah. But exactly, because I'm sure you report on that, definitely. Sorry for the slow on the uptake on that. But anyway, so other than the Ricky Glenn draw, this man has rattled off 10 wins, I think. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 wins, with 8 of them being in the UFC and against only a draw. So the guys who had a lot of, the last loss he had was 7 years ago when he was 22 years old. And 22-year-olds, for the most part, are getting beaten by someone. They don't have their man strength yet.
Yeah, they don't have that. Yeah.
No, or experience, nothing. You don't really have a lot. You just got your pure grit and youth. But this guy's a killer. This guy's a very good jiu-jitsu black belt. He's got some hands. His wrestling's been getting better and better out of America's top team. And he has fought some crafty guys. He beat a very good Russian in his last fight in Damir Ismagulov. And Ismagulov was 24-2 going into that fight. And Dawson beat him every round. So that was something. He also submitted the gold medalist in I think Greco-Roman wrestling from Denmark, Mark O. Madsen, last fight before. He submitted Jared Gordon, who beat the brakes off of Patty Pimblett, but they ripped him off for the decision. He's really good. Grant Dawson is really good. There's not much for interviews. There's not too many out there. I reached out a couple of times but haven't got any traction, but I'm going to try again because he's a kid that's really, really good.
Impressive record, sure, and that's obviously because he's a heavy favorite as well.
Oh yeah, and let me even elaborate on the record. The man has 20 wins and 1 loss, 1 draw, with 17 finishes, 13 by submission.
Ooh.
He's at an 85% finish rate, with 65% of them submission. The one fight he lost 7 years ago, he was 22. He did get stopped real quick, but really you can throw that out.
Yeah, like you said, with the inexperience, you got to that's got to play a factor in there. Obviously,
exactly.
Your experience is going to change it. I mean, Bobby Green is definitely the veteran. You can't take him lightly, but I think with the wear and tear and Father Time, he's undefeated for sure against everybody. I don't like the odds to take Dawson, but I don't see any other way it comes out than Dawson winning.
Yeah, I agree, Hollywood. And here's what I'd say: if some people might say, "Well, what if Dawson had not fought any crafty veterans?" But that's not true. Look on his resume here. He fought crafty veteran Julian Erosa 4 years ago when he was 25 years of age. He beat him. He fought Derek Mitter, who's another very tough guy, and he beat him. He fought a very crafty Brazilian, Leonardo Santos, beat him in finishing that. Bobby Green has a record of 30-14. But to be honest with you, 5-6 of those fights could have won his. I think his legitimate record is more like 35 at top. He's got 19 finishes, so he's at a 63% finish rate. He's fought everyone there is fight. He came off that good submission over Tony Ferguson, had a no contest with Jared Gordon, but then before that did get stopped by Drew Dober and Islam Makhachev. He's just such a tough guy, but at 37 and 155 pounds, he's not going to be probably getting any better because of Father Time. So this is a hard spot for Green. The odds makers do have it a big favorite for the younger man on the lead street. Grant Dawson, nearly 4-1 favorite. If Dawson walks into something, that could be it, because Bobby's really unorthodox. Bobby is, I think, about as close to as good a wrestler as Grant. Grant didn't really have a huge wrestling background. You learned a lot of it in jiu-jitsu, if I'm not mistaken. It's not going to be that super easy for Green to take him down, especially since he knows that that's what's coming. But you know what? This will be a test. People are starting to throw Grant's, name because he is going up the rankings. But they're starting to throw his name in there with the top guys. The champ is on the Makhachev, the former champ Charles Oliveira. The really good grapplers like Mateus Gamrot, Benio Darius, Armand Faroukian. They're like, is he with these guys yet? Is his name be mentioned with them or not? And I think this fight, even though the fight he should win, is going to tell more on that. And I think I'm thinking that he maybe is that good. And it would be very interesting to see him against some of those guys, man, because they all do the same thing to their opponents for the most part. They're just dominant grapplers. And it'd be interesting to see this hybrid Brazilian jiu-jitsu, against someone with Dagestani wrestling, and and the third jiu-jitsu, Charles Oliveira, the sambo and wrestling like Armand Faroukian, the wrestling European wrestling Poland, against Gamrot. So this is a big fight for him, man. If he wins this convincingly, he can start mentioning those guys' names. If he doesn't, and he probably can't. I think he will. There's just no money on it. And there's probably not any money on finishing it or not finishing it, right? I mean, well, you know what? On the flip side of it, there probably is a little bit of money because neither one of them is a sure thing. So you're probably going to maybe get possibly almost even money whether you bet it goes, it ends inside the distance or not. And but I'm Dawson's camp really wants to see it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, especially if he's trying to make that jump to the next level, the next tier opponents, you got to make a statement win, as they call it. And, that might be a decent bet there. Maybe, him winning inside the distance.
By submission.
Or,
right.
Yeah, by submission,
even though, right. But then again, the payout won't probably be even money on that with as many submissions as he's got. But it may not be that bad. It might not be that bad because Bobby's such a veteran. So there's different ways to play this. But yeah, laying all that chalk, I always hate to advise anyone to lay down $400 to win $100. It's not the way you make money in sports gambling. Although once in a while you'll make that $100. But if you got money to spare and you want to keep conservative, don't do it a lot. But if you want to do it in this spot, you'll probably win your $100
right.
or $400. But stuff can go wrong in a way.
Yeah, we would have thought that during Aljamain Sterling and Sugar Sean O'Malley too, and look what happened. But then again, a lot of times like that, you might win the whole rest of the card, but then you throw it all on Aljamain and then turn around and lose it, right back. So that's why they call it gambling, man. And so that'll wrap up fight night. I wanted to pick your brain really quick because we've got a lot of stuff going on in the combat sports world, a lot of crossover stuff. I remember one of the first times I seen Jake Paul fight was on the Mike Tyson, Roy Jones undercard when he knocked out, was it Glenn Robinson? I
believe it was. Yep, I believe it was.
So, I remember watching that because obviously I was excited to see Tyson back in the ring after such a long layoff. Even though I wasn't expecting Mike Tyson of old, it was still just that, familiarity of what he brought to the sport and just seeing him back in the ring in that capacity. It was exciting. And I remember seeing knock out that basketball player or former basketball player. And then the progression that he's done, like it or not, that kid is dedicated to becoming good at what he's doing. Could he get in there and box with Canelo Alvarez? Absolutely not. But he's very smart. He's so smart at the way he's playing this game, because I call it like the Conor McGregor effect. People are going to pay to see Conor. He's going to talk his trash. He's going to, for the most part, back it up. And at that point, if you play the heel role, you've got everybody, because you've got the crowd that loves you. Then you've got the other people that hate you so bad, they're going to pay money to hope you lose. Same thing that Floyd Mayweather had for years. Floyd made a switch. He was Pretty Boy Floyd early in his career. That wasn't generating a whole lot of buzz. When he went heel, I'll use a wrestling term, an old school wrestling term. When he went heel and became Money Mayweather and was flaunting it in your face and throwing money, then that's when he got everybody. And Logan understands that, and he's playing it to a T. The problem with that is its shelf life is as good as long as you're winning. And when he fought Fury, he lost. I knew he wasn't done because obviously he didn't get knocked out. It was a great bounce back when he fought Nate. I thought that was a good fight. Nate showed up. He was Nate. But I'm curious to see, where do you see, and I don't know if they've announced it yet or not, where do you see his next fight going, and how long do you think he can ride this wave, Jake Paul?
Very good question and excellent analysis, as you're known for, brother. Very, very good.
Thank you.
Said it better myself. You got it. I couldn't have said it as well, probably. It's very interesting. Yeah, he basically had a little bit of a wrestling background. His brother Logan had a little bit more wrestling background. They were pretty big kids. They were pretty good athletes, but never really super driven, I think. And then when he got into this, he did take it seriously. They had money. So I believe he did get some good training with the Mayweather, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so, and the bottom line is, you take an athletic kid who was very young. He's only like 25, 26 now. So he started training boxing. Seriously, he was like 22. You take a young kid who paid for the best training and very focused and trains hard, and he's got some skills. A lot of people debate, he wouldn't be the top 5 guy for sure in pro boxing. He wouldn't be the top 10 guy. He really shouldn't be the top 15 guy. Some people start coming in and saying maybe he could compete with a guy who's ranked number 20, but maybe not. Other people say no, he could have maybe number 30 guy or number 35 guy. And then other people say no one with any number in like the top 50 in boxing could be beat. But other people disagree. He's a tough kid. He's a strong guy, and he's a charismatic guy. He's a heel for sure. Who he has next? I mean, it's interesting to think. Nate was an interesting battle. I know his brother Nick was talking about it when Nick was not being in good condition mentally and physically as he was. So I know that now. I don't think there's any thought of a Diaz rematch, although it was a pretty close fight. So maybe there would be. I mean, there'd be money in it. And people, but I don't know if Nate wants that. Nate's 12 years old. Nate's getting 38 years old. That. I don't think Jake wants to do Fury again, although it would be amazing if he fought him and won. But then I don't know if Fury wants to give him that chance.
I don't know if Fury wants to do it. I think Fury would do it just because that's probably one of Fury's better paydays, to be honest.
That's right.
I don't know what he was. That's always the driving force behind a lot of these decisions is the payday. And the one thing I'll give Jake is he's really making it about fighter pay. He's trying to bump that up, which I think a lot of people have accepted. Paydays are what they are, and so it's giving guys like Tyron Woodley and other secondary.
Ben Askren, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Man, that Anderson fight. Yeah, Silva had been 5 years younger, right? He beat Stick.
Oh, and the one thing I'll give Paul is every time he stepped it up, not necessarily because you went up the Anderson. To me, he was going up in competition and experience for sure. Like Askren, I fully expected him to beat Askren. I didn't expect Askren to win that fight. I thought when he fought Silva, that was a little risky. And I actually bet Silva on that fight. You know, then he steps it up with Nate. I mean, he ups the bar a little bit at a time. I think for my money, he needs to stick with these crossover fights with the UFC fighters that's maybe slightly older, maybe a little bit out of their prime, but has the name value to bring the viewers in. That's where his niche is. That's where he's going to make his money. You know, he tried going in there with Fury and he done well. A Fury rematch wouldn't be bad to see. It would really just depend on the money. But again, he's got to worry about getting that second loss because the first one, Mike can live through the first one depending on how it looks. But when you get that second one, then people start, is it really worth paying money to fight?
Right. Exactly. Have you heard the name Mike Perry?
I've heard that name. Where do I know that name?
Mike Perry was a UFC fighter who really was pretty much just a striker. And because he didn't have much wrestling or grappling, he didn't have a winning record in UFC, although he was exciting. He's now killing it in bare knuckle boxing.
Okay.
He would be an interesting fight because I think he's in his 30s now. Let me take a look. I'm going to guess he's maybe 32 or 33. He's originally from Detroit, my city of birth, my hometown. He is 32 years old. Yep. So he's 5'10", so he'd be giving away 3 inches in height. He's got a ton of scar tissue on him, but he's really found his niche in bare knuckle fight. And you know what everyone in the bars are saying that hey, Jake's 26 years younger, Jake's 3 inches taller, Jake walks around over 200 pounds, Perry maybe walks around at 190. Why not take this fight and do it in bare knuckles? And then everyone on the other side of the bar says, why? Because he's never going to do it. But he should do it. It would be very exciting. Mike Perry would take that fight in a heartbeat. Nate Shook and David Feldman would make that fight in a heartbeat. But there's a very good chance Jake will lose. And on top of that, the bare knuckles aspect of getting hit in the head is different. I'm a friend of the main color commentator, Chris Lytle. I've known him for years, interviewed him many times. And he fought a couple fights in bare knuckles before he became a commentator. He said he won his fight. He was a rugged, long time, very, very tough guy, 6-time UFC fighter, the night champion. But the feeling is different. It's not, the impact isn't as much because the glove is actually spreading out the impact on your face.
Yeah.
So that's not really doing favors for your brain. And because of the glove, you can keep hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting all night. With bare knuckles, you've got to pick your shots. You don't want to break both of your hands.
Right. And then you're
but it's a different feeling. The crack you hear, the splitting of your skin. You know what I mean? It's almost like someone's taking a baseball bat and going dink, 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 you know, on your head. And so it's apparently, I don't know, it's apparently an unsettling feeling. So I don't think Jake wants any of that. And if he did, if Jake said, hey, you know what? Damn it, I'm fighting Mike Perry and bare knuckles. I'll be the co-promoter with David Feldman, whatever. Everyone would have respect for him. If he did that, I think everyone would say, damn, this kid's actually got, you know, some balls here, because Mike Perry could break his face into a million pieces. And Perry's like impervious to pain.
Yeah.
So, you know, Jake can come in there with these perfect great combinations, and Perry will be sitting there, you know, sticking his tongue out. You know what I mean? And, you know, so that would be great. I don't think, you know, especially since Jake has been training traditional boxing with gloves for 4 or 5 years, seriously, not bare knuckles fighting, but
different beast.
Yeah, and maybe he could convince Perry to come into with the gloves, but I don't think it'd be exciting. I think
that's his key, though. He convinces those guys that's used to the UFC to come into the gloves, where, you know, you entice them enough with that money, they don't really care that they're at that disadvantage because they're going in there for that payday. So It'll be interesting to see who his next opponent is because I don't think they've announced it. But I want to piggyback real quick off his brother. Have you paid any attention to the shit that's going on with Dylan Dennis and Logan Paul with all the trash talk and the Twitter beefs and everything? I mean, it was like daily him posting stuff about Paul's girlfriend, about Logan's girlfriend, excuse me. I mean, daily and I mean, obviously she was a lady about town.
Yeah, sounds like
to put it mildly. But the stuff that he was doing on Twitter is absolutely ruthless. And I haven't followed it in a little bit. I want to say, I think that young lady actually filed like a restraining order to get him to stop. Like he was roasting her.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, Dylan Dennis is a character. You know, he first became known as a moderately successful jiu-jitsu black belt competitor. And there's no shade in that. My body's not going to last for me to get a black belt, and maybe not even a brown. I'm a purple belt, and I would have been higher. I just didn't have the time or the money, and now I'm probably going to stay because my late wife in heaven the last few years was saying, I know what you're thinking about by looking at it. Don't get back into jiu-jitsu. You know, you're old. You're going to get your shoulder is already jacked up. Your neck is already jacked up. But anyway, my point is that, you know, so even being a moderately successful jiu-jitsu competitor at the black belt level is serious. He was a black belt instructor for Conor McGregor. And McGregor really did improve his skills under the tutelage of Dylan Dennis. And then I think his teacher also, John Donahue, was also a big help. In boxing, Dylan hasn't shown anyone yet breaking so he's going to do against Logan Paul. A lot of people are wondering how Dylan Dennis is making money. He doesn't have any sponsors anymore. He's not competing in jiu-jitsu anymore. But I think he has a big enough social media following that he's monetized there, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess
it's probably grew after this, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I would say. It's just weird. I mean, Logan Paul, the Paul brothers, I think, kind of realize that anyone that they fight, they're doing them a favor. You know, just Floyd Mayweather, just like Conor McGregor. You fight me, I'm the big star. I got all this heat. You get paid. You're welcome.
Red panty night, I think he called it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. so I don't know how Dylan Dennis and maybe Logan really didn't give a raps behind about that fight. And maybe Dennis figures I got to egg this guy on and insult his wife enough.
Yeah, make it big.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because as a Generation X guy, I know you're younger than me, but for many years, insulting someone's wife and family was really a no-no. You know, guys would say, and you know, certainly from the life and from, you know, you really don't do that. And but it seems sadly enough, like with these Generation Z guys who are in their 20s or younger 30s, they don't know. For them, it's great. You know, nobody likes it. But they're like, oh, you don't like it. Your wife's a hoe. Who cares? Big thumbs down to your mom and your sister too. And it's like that shit did not go over in any time before like 2010, especially in the 1900s, even 1990s or 80s. Big no-no. But different world, I guess. Maybe not in a good way with that stuff. But nevertheless, yeah, I think Dennis really could use the payday, I think. And even though he may get flattened, I mean, he's a pure grappler. How good hands. I mean, Conor did coach him to help his hands, but it's just like the reality is a guy who's a lifelong striker, unless your name is George St. Pierre, and George got into the grappling when he was like 2021. Still, though, majority of guys who don't grapple in high school are never going to. George didn't start training until 21 and 22, and he became elite when he was an anomaly. So if you're a lifelong grappler and you're thinking striker and you're thinking at 30 years old or 28 or 35, you're going to become an elite level wrestler. Never. You will not. The mechanisms of your hip, the explosiveness, the movement, you're not going to get it. You're not going to be that good. But sadly enough, a lot of these guys that are lifelong grapplers that didn't even have a punching bag in their home when they were a kid, and then they're going to try to start being a really great striker in their 30s. Not happening either. The other way is even more. The other way is less likely that you can get to be a really good wrestler. You can get to be a pretty good jiu-jitsu guy, a wrestler, no. And then these wrestlers just are not. They just don't have the pop. And don't mistake what I'm saying though, is that wrestlers that start training striking in their early 20s and do it. But we're talking about a jiu-jitsu guy started training some striking with Connor in his late 20s. I think I don't know what he'll do with Logan Paul. And Logan's not as good as Jake, but I don't see
That's
what
what I'm
he'll
saying.
have.
I don't think Logan's even won a match. I don't think he's at where he fought. He lost to KS1 by decision, I believe it was, and then
KSI,
lost, or KSI, excuse me, and then lost to Mayweather. Which I mean, I'll give him his credit. He stood in there with him, even though I'm pretty sure it looked like one time Mayweather actually held him up.
Yeah. And Mayweather was much smaller than him. But he's got some skills, and he's probably boxing around with Jake every week, And
well, the one thing I'm going to give Logan though, and I don't know if you watch much WWE, but I mean that kid is a hellified athlete. He's doing some stuff on WWE that I've watched guys for years haven't been able to pull off, and I mean he's entertaining as hell. Like, if you get us a minute, just Google like Logan in WWE, some of the shit that he's doing off the top rope. I mean, even that Jake fought, like he fought, I don't know if that was WrestleMania. I think it was WrestleMania. He fought WrestleMania, hopped on a plane, immediately flew to watch his brother fight. These boys are killing it, man. They're killing it.
They are. They really are.
They understand it.
They do. They're good athletes. They go for it. They train hard. They're also very lucky and blessed that they were able to blow up on social media the way they did. It's interesting not to go into a whole new can of worms, to go down a rabbit hole, but I've talked to some people who are very knowledgeable, and everyone thinks that it's somewhat random how certain people blow up and end up having 1 million views on social media. There really is. There are people behind the scenes watching and deciding who to press the button on, and then you got 1 million viewers. And I'm not saying it's not from any effort on their own, but there's some people that are looking and saying, you know what, I think this guy could be big. Let me just pop the button and do so. It's not as random 100% people saying, hopefully I don't end up disappearing like Jimmy Hoffa after saying this. I may have to stay. If you can find somewhere for me to hide now, I might have to stay there. Hopefully, I don't know anything. If anyone's watching, I'm just guessing. I'm speculating.
Yeah, we're just going off context clues.
Yes. Yes.
I watched that Untold, and it kind of broke down their whole story, like from stardom, and they started off on Vine, and the gradual progression, even kind of the downward spiral. Logan had that instance where I think he filmed like a dead body in the woods, and he caught a lot of flack for that. So I mean, they've adapted, they've changed with the times. That's what you got to do in this day and time. I'm gonna switch back over to straight boxing here real quick, and we'll kind of close out with this. Tyson was lined up to do that fight with, how you pronounce that guy's name? Usyk?
Yes. Tyson Fury was going to fight Alexander.
And they called it off. There was rumors of him fighting Ngannou. I think that got kind of put on the back burner the other day. I seen that they actually did set the fight either late December, 1st of next year, for him to fight Usyk. I think that's going to be a good fight. I think Tyson wins it. The only thing that worries me about Tyson, and maybe I shouldn't worry, and because I know he's a showman, he's a throwback to, I almost consider him like a wrestler, with his theatrics and everything that he does and his social media. All these athletes have understood that social media is just as big a presence as them in the ring, their attire. It's an extension of their personality and something they can make money off of. And Tyson is great on social media. If anybody follows him, I always have this slight fear that maybe he's believes too much of his own hype. I had that fear in the last Wilder fight, Wilder 3, which he did get knocked down, I believe, twice in that fight. Yep. So that close.
Yep.
But at the same time, I do think he's somebody that's dedicated to his craft. What do you think about that fight when it happens? Who are you taking? I'm going to probably definitely roll with Tyson. You just want to make sure he don't believe his own hype, drink his own Kool-Aid, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very good analysis. So Tyson is the older fighter, but he's the taller, lengthier fighter by several inches, I think. Being 6'8", I think he is, or 9 or something crazy. Yeah, the other guy's a pretty good size heavyweight. I think around 6'3". Tyson's probably going to come in 40 or 50 pounds heavier, which is significant. But Usyk is kind of like a throwback fighter in that he's not the heaviest guy. He's tall enough. He's not a short fighter, but he's not this super tall skyscraper like the Wilders and the Klitschko brothers and Fury. But he's a very, very technical fighter. His cardio is amazing. He's very confident and his chin is very solid and reliable. Got the confidence of being undefeated as well. It was looking for a bit like Fury was ducking Usyk. Some of their exchanges were very funny on video.
Yeah.
English is not the best. And Tyson Fury, and this is what I was telling my wife, we came a couple weeks before she died. I said, it's funny, imagine if there was social media where you could YouTube and put out videos and Facebook and on your own like 30, 40, 50 years ago. Imagine Muhammad Ali going on there and saying, Joe Frazier, you dumb jackass, And so with Tyson Fury, my favorite one was when he's standing there like crazy look at his face, big, huge guy, bald head, and he says, Usyk, you proper shitbag, you little shithouse. They said, what do you say? You bug-eyed, ugly, so some rat looking, I forget who it was too. He said it was a bug-eyed, bug-eyed, ugly, weasel, slimy, short rat, rat bastard, a proper shitbag, a slimy fucker. And he's saying all this stuff. We gotta find that. And it's just so he let up, boom, 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 boom. And, I must have watched that one like 40 times. And Usyk is calling him greedy belly. Because at one point he said, only way I'll fight Usyk is if I get 70% of the person, Usyk get 30. And Usyk makes a video says, all right, greedy belly, I take 30. Where's the fight? And then he makes a video insulting Usyk again. You little shithouse. You shit dirtbag. You proper ugly, bug-eyed, weasel, slimy rat. And it's like, but anyway, but yeah, that's going to be a serious fight. Usyk has been wanting that fight for a couple of years now, and it looks like Tyson is the guy kind of standing in the way. No offense to Tyson Fury. I'll never get an interview now with Tyson Fury, but I'm an MMA guy. But I don't know. No, Tyson's not afraid of anyone. But I think he realized that's his biggest challenge. I mean, I think Francis can do something if Francis can land, but it's going to be tough in boxing. Francis is only training boxing.
Francis, everything's going to have to align for Francis to, happen with there. And I remember what you're talking about when he agreed. I think he put out something. It was like, I'll only fight him if it's 70-30 split my way. You've got 24 hours to respond, or it's 80-20. After that, it's 90-10, something along those lines, pressuring him in. And then he did it. And then all of a sudden, then you got backtracking. So maybe not necessarily the best look, but at the same time, man, if a focused Tyson Fury comes into that fight, he just, pardon the term, throws his weight around, and it's hard to do something with that big frame, that big body. I thought he used it the best I'd ever seen in Wilder 2, just laying on Deontay. I mean, that was wearing him out, in and of itself, just trying to push that big man off of you, let alone, him knocking the hell out of you for 12 rounds or however many rounds that fight went. I mean, I think he's going to do that. Usyk, definitely a great fighter, undefeated. But, a focused Tyson Fury, I don't see losing. Unfocused, maybe believe in your own hype. Because I don't know why he wouldn't want to unify those belts. That's a huge thing. I don't think it's ever been done.
Yeah, no, at least not for a long time. I think Mike Tyson was a unified heavyweight champion. I don't know if anyone else since then. But to coin the phrase of Wilder, this fight could be wilder than the Wilder fights. And it's going to be great because that Usyk and Usyk has made his videos, saying some silly stuff, But man, this fighters insulting each other in social media is kind of funny. you're gonna fight anyway, right? But I guess it's hyping the fight.
Oh yeah.
And yeah. And he said, I think he said something before the fight was signed. Fury said, "Take a fight with so and so." And he goes, "You want it?" And he goes, "You're crying for a rematch with so and so," and they didn't even want that. They said, "You could never fight a man like me. Go fight so and so for a couple of bucks an hour." Shit, man. Hey, it was just, you have to find that. I'll find it and I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
I used to have it memorized. Since my wife passed, it's been hard to remember a lot of shit. But I used to remember exactly what he said. You bug-eyed. Yo, here it is. You bug-eyed, gappy teeth, ugly little rat bastard, slimy fucker. You big gappy teeth, bug. Oh man,
and that's the day and age we're in, man. And like you said, what a time it would have been if social media was a thing back in those days, and how much more fights could have been hyped. Because now somebody that don't even really follow the sport of boxing, scrolling on TikTok or something like that, can land on that, see him. Oh, okay, I might want to check out this fight. It's bringing so many new fans to the sport that maybe didn't pay that much attention. So definitely a different time, man, different landscape in the world of combat sports. Looking forward to getting back up with you maybe here in a couple of weeks. I know we got a UFC coming up later on the end of the month, right?
Yeah, big one is the rematch. Islam Makhachev defending his UFC lightweight title against the man he fought 2 fights ago and took the title from, Charles Oliveira. And Oliveira kind of got caught in that fight.
Yeah, he dominated that whole fight. Got caught at the end, didn't he?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say dominated. He was looking fine. He
looked real strong in the first round. He almost got a submission in the first round.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, you're right. I don't mean to contradict you, but yeah, he was looking fine. He was on bottom, but he was moving in position, and then he got caught, and I think the punch jarred him so much that as soon as Makhachev got on the ground, he went for this neck and arm choke, an arm triangle choke. And normally when someone starts getting that on you, starts to lock it up, you want to bring your elbow up and over and back on the ground. Then they don't have the lever to use. And if you can't do that quick enough, you want to do what's called answering the phone. Which is you bring your arm up like this, and this arm is stopping them from getting your other arm to choke you. Charles did neither of those. Also, you want to try to hip skate and go toward the choke. He didn't do that either. So a lot of us were looking and saying, Charles almost looks like a white belt in jiu-jitsu. He didn't do a single thing. But the answer is when you get hit so hard, you don't know where you are, then we're all a white belt. So this was not throwing shade to Charles, but he was rocked so hard, he couldn't see where he was. And then Makhachev's strong top pressure is so much, he just got down and locked that in, and that was it. There wasn't doing. But I think that if Charles doesn't get, his lights almost turned out, then that's going to be a very competitive fight. And I think
I remember that particular fight because I actually had Charles for a first round submission. So when he caught him in that standing like headlock thing that he does, and he's won fights with that before. I think the previous fight he won like that before. And I thought the guy was done, man, and he managed to get out of it. And then, like I said, later on he wound up going and losing the fight. So I agree with you. If you don't get that hard shot, could have had a different outcome. But get back together for that, man. Look, I appreciate your time coming on, brother. Glad to have you back.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. And it's a great show. Always happy to be on with Hollywood Wade, crime, and entertainment. This man is the best.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Hollywood Wade here with the UFC guru, Colin Crandall. We hope everyone makes some money this week for UFC Fight Night in Vegas. We'll see you next time here on Crime and Entertainment. Colin, we appreciate it, my friend.
You got it, my friend. Anytime. Peace.
Thank you.